Yeah, no, that was like literally my main notes are one, American Eagle was a cool brand, mall brand when I was growing up. So it was in my mind a millennial brand. And
Yeah,
then
agreed.
like, Abercrombie and Fitch, they did a whole 360 with their brand. And I have to say, they have really cute stuff now. They've got
Yeah,
some great like rebranding. Their products are higher end, they're more
yeah.
expensive. Like they did a great job. They have a clearer vision of like who their audience is.
They've
And I
done a good
think
job.
yeah, they really have. So yeah, to the point where I walk in and I'm like, wait, I want that and that. It's cute.
All right, welcome to Hip Replacement episode 20. This is a bit of a unique episode because Ben had some car difficulties. So there were some technical difficulties and planning things. We couldn't figure it out. So Kyle, and our guest, Kristen, welcome, Kristen Simon,
Hi.
are here with you today. But Kristen also has a bit of a funny something as well because let me give you the intro of Kristen. Kristen runs a newsletter called Best Trends Forever, and as you can infer from the title, Kristen runs that newsletter and the sort of like media universe of Best Trends Forever with her partner, Sarah. Sarah could not make it because she had a conflict too. So we both have one half of these duos for the 20th episode. So welcome, Kristen. Good to meet you.
Thank thank you. Yeah, there's something serendipitous about all the twos. So
Yeah,
it kind of worked
it,
out.
it's it's serendipitous. I'm sure that there is something cosmic that we could like zoom into. Because we had been emailing about this about like a lot of Mercury retrograde, and like we've had, I think the past two episodes has been some sort of like hiccup. Clearly, something is in the air, if whether you believe that or not. But that was something we talked
Yes.
about.
Yes. No, I definitely believe in that stuff. And I definitely believe in Mercury retrograde. So I'm not surprised that any of this
It's
is happening.
it's a tough retrograde. I mean, look, it's not that hard, but this is definitely one where I've had a lot of things like, yeah, miscommunications or like have to reset a thing and this and that, or like that has been particularly hard this year. I also feel like this is a very millennial conversation we're having right now, or maybe Gen
Touche.
Z.
Yeah, I feel like Gen Z, I feel like knows more about astrology than I do, but I don't know.
True. I subscribe to it. Yeah, I subscribe to it, but not in a deep enough way where I actually, if you say the time of year you were born, that I would know your sign. I always ask them like, "Oh, were you born?" And then like try to guess, and I'm like, I don't actually know.
Same. And I'm like hoping that they say something that I am so that I can relate. But
That
otherwise,
that's exactly it. I'm like, if you're born like when my boyfriend was born, or when you were born when like my mom was born, I'll be like, oh yeah, oh you're a Scorpio then, or like you are a Leo. Otherwise, I'm like, I have no idea.
yes, same. And I really try to like go into astrology and learn, but I really just know about myself and what's going on
Yeah,
each week. And yeah.
same. We're trying. We're doing what we can. So Kristen, running a Best Friends Forever, I think you guys do a really fun, uh, great sort of capturing of what's happening in the world. With like, I think you do like a proper like report in a way. Mine is
Yeah.
called the Trend Report, which I think is a misnomer. I think it's a kind of a joke, but I think you guys do a really good sort of surveying of things that are happening. How does it work as like a duo? Because like part of me thinks like, oh, that could be like so that could make my job easier, but the other part of me is like, part of why I'm a writer is because I really don't like group projects, and here we
Touche.
are.
Well,
So how do you do it?
it's so no, it's so funny because I love doing side projects and things like that. And so um normally I wouldn't even know if I would do this, but her and I
Yeah,
came together so naturally because we both work in like social media, trends. She works for a beauty company, but is always doing trends. She used to work for a trend forecasting company, so she's still in that
nice.
world. And I've done like trend reports for a company separately. So I'm like,
Hmm.
we're both very in the know. And so we're always texting each other like, hey, like what have you heard about this? Or, oh my gosh, this is a funny trend. And a lot of it
Yeah,
is like fashion, but then there's also the cultural aspect
totally.
too. But
Totally.
yeah, so we were just like talking about it all the time, literally like texting each other about it so often that we're like, you know what? Would be really fun if we just kind of combined our findings and put it
Yeah.
into a trend report. So yeah, it
That's
worked out very easily.
Yeah, that's so like, and it's funny because there has, and I know we've talked about it on this podcast, is that like there's become a sort of like trend of exactly that. Like I think it's great because I think like there's so many people and so many businesses in the world that like you will find your like trend person for you or like your sort of like audience as the person who's writing it. So like there's a space for everybody, but it definitely is like I think a beauty of Substack is that like so many people who work in or have an interest in the sort of trend space or do strategy sort of are able to sort of enter it and have some fun and do some things that are interesting. I think like what you guys do is such a good fusion of, you know, this for like a better words text chat, and I think that's sort of like it lives up to the name, which I think is such a
Yeah.
great name.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. Yeah, we were thinking on the name for so long. And then Sarah's boyfriend was just like, brought the idea to the table, and we were both like, that's it.
Very cute. I love it. I love it.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. Well, okay, let's get into things 'cause we have a lot to sort of like cover today. Unfortunately, since we do not have our Gen X counterpart, we cannot get an on the ground take on this. However, I do think this subject sort of leans into a bit millennial. I think it might be a zillennial, Xillennial. Wow, long spelling. But
No.
so there was I believe it was a New York Post story that sort of like broke it, but the subject has been sort of brewing about what is being called quote unquote cougar puberty, which basically is a rebranding of, you know, the concept of perimenopause and menopause and these sort of, well, let's say like early to mid to late 40s changing of women's body. And like this rebranding is what I'm sort of like curious about because I think definitely perimenopause has been having a moment for the past few years. Last year with All Fours, and we can talk about that if you read it, really made it have a big breakout moment. And like I feel like it's becoming a bigger and bigger conversation with millennials and or just like people who are quote unquote older or going through it online, hence why we have this sort of like rebranding called Cougar Puberty. So, what are your thoughts on this? Have you heard it? Do you think that this is like more Gen X or millennial? Like, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, no, it's interesting because, yeah, the millennial age is kind of big, but, I recently heard about it, but it's kind of like making me a little scared because I'm 35 and I'm like, great, this is what I have to look forward to. All in all, I'm really excited that people are talking about it because
Yeah.
I really like did not hear much about perimenopause, and I love that it's got an empowering name to it. So
Hmm.
that's great. But yeah, no, I'd not heard much of it before recently when it started getting posted on actual news outlets. But I did my own like little bit of research and looked on TikTok, and yeah, it's like I like that women are like in the comments talking about their experiences and kind of just creating this conversation that needs to be had.
It needs to be had. And I think it's also it's sort of this is unrelated, complete well ish, unrelated and not, but like I think it ties into a subject like say endometriosis, like these items that are really understudied
Yeah.
in medical research because like that every time I hear friends in real life and or online talk about perimenopause or even menopause in general, it always is with the caveat of like there's not enough research on this, so we really don't know about like the space it's in or sort of like when it
Yeah.
actually starts, what's actually happening. So like perhaps this rebranding and there being a sort of like viral conversation around it is will help sort of like to create more research and more sort of understanding of it because like
Yeah.
I would assume this is something that's always happened to the human body, but like
Uh-huh.
we still have not gotten some clarity on this uh, occurrence that has happened to quote unquote half of humans or all of humanity. And so, like, look,
Yeah.
if cougar puberty is what's going to help push it into like having more research, I'll take it.
Wow. No, I love that. That's so true. And yeah, I love that the conversation in general about women's bodies not being studied enough for
Right.
medical purposes is a conversation. Hopefully that is also changing because women's bodies are so
Yeah.
complex, and I know that it's so hard to study them, and that's why they choose men for test subjects for things. But yeah, it's I'm glad that it's being talked about and that can actually hopefully be changed and bring more medical like research to this stuff.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's also like it. What's funny to me is that like the idea of say cougar puberty is so I can't tell like if this is more millennial, more Gen X, but like it feels very millennial to give it a name like this, even though I feel like the cougar moniker is very Gen X, like that is like a them thing, maybe a bit boomer, but I think it's mostly like a Gen X thing. Because like again,
Yeah.
when I think cougar, at least I think Real Housewives, and I think like
Hmm.
millennials are sort of like entering that space for better or worse, and I think like
Hmm.
that branding of it sort of fits into the larger like social media first nature of them. So like all that being said is like, do you agree with that? And or if and when you are experiencing this, like, is that like a is that a phrase you would adopt ironically or not?
Yeah, no, wait, I love that you said that because Sarah and I were just talking about some of these subjects last night, and that was one of the things that we were talking about is how, yeah, there's always a name for something on social media, and it's kind of funny how, yeah, here's just another term. Um, I mean, I love that it's an empowering way to be said.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. I love to embrace like all things like feminism and powerful, but I do
Hmm.
think it's kind of a funny term that I don't even know if I necessarily fully get the cougar term,
Right.
but I guess yeah, because you're like on your way to becoming a cougar. I don't know, but
Yeah.
I don't know what I would say about adopting it personally because I'm not there quite yet, but
Yeah.
yeah, I love that. It is an empowering term,
I
and
mean, at the least, like it, like, look, is it a bit cringe? I think so, but like, I think like
okay, you said it.
that's why I think it's a bit more millennial. And like, look, I love that about us, but like, hey, um, however, like, I think like even if it is cringe, and it is,
Hmm. Hmm.
um, what it is useful at or helpful with, again, to the point of like medical need, is that it does sort of like give you a really quick shorthand of like what's happening. Like it isn't a one to one, like it's not puberty at all. Like it's sort of arguably the opposite of puberty, the undoing
Hmm.
versus the becoming.
Yeah,
Which if I'm misunderstanding menopause, please tell me. And if you don't know, that's also
I
fine
think
too.
that's right.
Um, but either way, it's like that is like it's a good synonym conceptually that like even if anything comes out of this, if it's more people learning about what the process of perimenopause and menopause is, it's a win.
Mhm.
And for that, thank you
Agreed.
for being a bit cringe, millennials, because
Yes,
sure.
that's what we're here for. No, but I'm totally on the same page with as all of that with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this I think it's funny that this subject is sort of going or the cougar puberty. I it doesn't roll off the tongue. I've
It
fucked it up,
doesn't. I
almost
think
fucked it
you've
up like 5 or 6 times now. So like we're moving on
cougar
from it because
puberty.
I'm gonna make yeah, it's gonna be messed up. But there was another subject that is related to this that I think it's fascinating. But you sent a story along from Dazed about how quote unquote health is the new flex, and I think that that is a fascinating subject, and it's something that has been sort of been in the water in culture for years. I think we all knew this, but this story sort of like put it all together. Tell me a bit
Yes.
more about like why did it resonate with you? What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah. No, it's so interesting because I feel like it used to be the cool thing was to go out and like even celebrities are going out, getting tables at clubs. And then
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where the shift has happened. And Z's not drinking anymore. I don't know, but now all of a sudden the focus went from being out and partying to totally on your health. And so I'm like, I don't know if I've just not been on the health journey until recently, but
Right.
now I'm full in on it. I like to like focus on my health. I don't know why. It just feels personally so good to know like, okay, I'm like I'm healthy, I'm going to live a long time and like doing these different health activities. And I
Mm-hmm.
kind of have a little bit of an obsessive personality with some of this stuff, and where I'm like, okay, my Oura ring says shouldn't, basically, if I'm drinking at night and then my score is terrible the next day, it makes me not want to
Right.
drink. And so then I like
Right.
take it to an extreme. I follow these biohacking accounts on social media that are just so like into it. But yeah, so anyway, sorry. All that being said, on the article that I sent over was basically just saying how the cool new thing is to be spending your time and money on all of these extravagant health things that celebrities are using that people didn't really do necessarily 10 years ago.
Right.
And a lot of it is not really in reach for most people in terms of time and money
Yeah.
and privilege. So, yeah, it's like it's the cool new thing to be able to spend all your free time going to get an IV every week or to do cryotherapy and a sauna and yeah, to have an aura ring and all the
Hmm.
things. It's endless, really. It's kind of overwhelming.
I mean, part of me is like, this is amazing and like, I love it. But the other part of me is I was funny. I was talking to my mom about this yesterday, is that like, it's, it's not that it's joyless. Like, I think there is something really joyful about understanding your body better and like understanding how things work and like knowing how you function your best and how to be your best. But I do think that in ways like there is, I'm not saying this is conservative, but I do think there's a sort of like conservativeness to like, let me just preserve this body, this thing, and like not let it evolve, not let it age, not let it this, not let it that. And like the where that I was talking to my mom about it was that I was telling her that like I used to have a book club when I lived in LA. That was like it was mostly millennials. Maybe there was some Gen Z, and maybe there was some Gen X, but like it was mostly millennials. And like we would host it every month, and like we would buy probably like 6 or 8 bottles of wine, like nearly a case of wine. And there were nearly 20 people, and we would drink it all. Like people would bring it, we would drink it all. It was like a party. It was great. That's why that group, it's still going. It was great. Good time. I started an event here in Barcelona earlier this year, and when we first started it, um, we would buy like 6 bottles of wine, like anticipating that like same
Mhm.
amount of people nearly that it would be the same. Because it was literally the same time of day, same everything. Subject is different, but same. And now, cut to like 6 months later, I only buy like 1, 2 bottles of wine because nobody drinks. Nobody drinks it.
Yeah,
And it
that's
is,
crazy.
I don't know if shocking is the right or wrong word, but like it is so fascinating to me because like it's a lot of young people and people will drink the kombucha, people will drink the sparkling water, 1 or 2 people will have the wine, but like it is something. And like I don't think it is all these people are sort of like thinking about biohacking, but I
Right.
do think that there's like something deeply in the water, or like the water is deeply not tainted, but like flavored, where people are not drinking, they're thinking about what they're eating, they're, looking at their protein, trying to build muscle, trying to whatever. And like that, again, that's great, but it's also like live a little. Like, come on. Like we can't all fucking be on Ozempic and whatever. It's like where is the joy? Like, come on.
No, literally. No, yes. And actually, I am surprised at how that shift is so extreme.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what it is especially the younger generation saw how much millennials drank. Like that was our
Yeah.
culture, at least
Fair.
mine.
Yeah,
I
same.
spent oh yeah, I spent my 20s in New York City. Like we would go out on the weekends to a club, to a bar, we would drink. Like that
Yeah.
was the thing that we would do. So maybe they
Yeah.
kind of saw that and it's just so interesting how it's swung so completely to the other side. But then the other thing that really confuses me is there is this health focus, but
Hmm.
what's up with all the vaping? Like that is so
Right.
terrible for you. But
Right.
I also think that this younger generation didn't grow up with us having cigarettes because smoking really
Totally.
wasn't even cool
We were
for
drinking, not smoking.
exactly. So now maybe it's like I don't know if it's like there's a longer pattern here of what's going
Yeah.
on, but it's kind of interesting how we said no smoking, it's terrible, and we drank, and now the younger generation saw that, and now they're
Yeah.
not drinking, but they're smoking. I don't know.
I mean, that is really interesting. It raised two ideas in my head. I think the first one which I think people would agree with. And I think we kind of talked about this last week with the Coldplay astronomer situation, is that like I wouldn't be surprised if like at least for Gen Z where this comes in, like I think it's probably less about health. I think there is a lot of health components. I think there's also the stories about like, people in their 20s now getting facelifts, and it's like, guys, that's insane. Which is like one thing about, beauty and trying to be beautiful. But like the health thing, the facelift thing, all that stuff to me with Gen Z gets into this idea of, and I think Anu Lingala, who has been on this podcast, she sort of mentioned it on Substack, is that like a lot of this stuff I would argue is about Gen Z being concerned about being seen on camera, let's say, looking sloppy, looking like sort of like bad, looking stupid, looking whatever. And I think a lot of it is this sort of like, since there are cameras everywhere, I can't let loose. I need to always be on. And like that is understandable. I get it. That's also like, again, live a little. Like if we're gonna be on, if we're forced to be on TV, at least be entertaining. Like at least like fucking come on. Like at least have some fun. Like it can't, like I don't think that like cameras everywhere are a good thing. Obviously I hate it. But I do think that there's like it I've been thinking about this actually because I had to sort of like I got a sort of heard some annoying things about like recent like privacy AI whatever stuff, and like, and I get it, like yeah, we shouldn't be giving our faces over to the government, literally, like it's happening in the UK. But part of me is also like, I'm sure all the governments in any country I've stepped into for the past 5 years has my face and a file on me. I'm not doing anything bad, but I'm sure they do. It's like part of me is like, who gives a fuck? Like all of my information is out there anyway. Like, sure, like I'm sure somebody, if they really tried, could find like some nudes I sent somebody somewhere. And like, you know what? Who gives a shit? Like I'm like, I don't care. Like it is what it is. Like, but I'm not saying that's good. All that being said is that like I think Gen Z's reluctance in the sort of drinking and stuff is perhaps a fear, like that fear of being perceived, sort of laddering into like a fear of being sloppy, living life, aging, all that sort of stuff, and trying to like cryo freeze yourself in a way.
Yeah, no, I actually never thought about it like that.
I just thought about it now. Hey, in our conversation, hey,
That's no, that makes total sense. I mean, that's literally the world they grew up in, on their
yeah,
phones, seeing that. So,
yeah. And the other thing that reminds me too, COVID. I feel like COVID also made especially
yes,
Gen Z be like, and it was
that's
valid. I get it. I get it. That was a mass traumatic event about health.
yes. Wait, no, that is so true. I read in one of these health articles, they did say something about how COVID was kind of the turning point for people to really start
Yeah.
thinking about their health. And
Hmm.
it's kind of true. Like, it's crazy
Yeah.
how I'm actually still feel like mind fucked that however many years have happened since COVID, I still feel like I don't even know. I feel like none of that time has gone by, and I still
I
feel,
agree.
yeah, it's weird. It's weirder to me how our entire culture for the most part has shifted, and it's also been an interesting time because I turned 30 during COVID, and
Mm.
I'm like, did I get old? Did I like just settle down in my like 7 year relationship? But like none of my
Hmm.
friends go out anymore. No one like does anything like super fun. And I'm like, yeah, is that culture or just me? But I think it's
I think
culture.
it's culture. I think it's culture. Like you really have to like, and I've gotten better at it now, for better or worse, about like going out. But I do think like
Same.
it hits you in a strange way, especially in your 30s, where it's like, and with the sort of forced pause of COVID, is that like I now feel like I have the stamina to go out and whatever, physically to go out and do it. I don't have the stamina to like maintain, say, like 3, 4 nights of drinking, even a few glasses of wine in a row. I'm like, this sucks. I hate it. Like it feels like you had like a parent who like, the classic like parenting trick was like, if you want to smoke cigarettes, you gotta sit here and smoke a whole pack and see how much you like it. I feel like that. And I'm like, this sucks. Like, don't make me, and I love wine. I'm like, don't make me have another glass of wine. I don't want to wake up tomorrow feeling like I have half a brain. I hate it.
Yes. Yes, exactly. And then the 30s have something to do with it too. Because in your
Yeah,
20s,
exactly.
you,
That's
yeah, it's fine. Yeah.
exactly. That's exactly it.
Yes. Hmm.
But it is what it is. The other, okay, so the other thing that sort of relates to that that I also think, and you mentioned it too, is like the technology, I think, has sort of enabled this too. Like the Aura Ring, even the Apple Fitness, the Apple Watch. Like I look at I'm very obsessive about mine. Like I know it's like dumb little like my monthly challenge is like I have to hit like 850 like burned calories for like 15 days this month, and I have like 2 more days and then I hit it. But we have technically 3 more days a month, so like I have to work my ass off or whatever. Like
Hmm.
that's so dumb, but like I do it anyway. And like that sort of like the techno element I think is related to Gen Z, but I think this is more like millennial Gen X perhaps,
Yeah.
because like it relates to the whole sort of like entrepreneur hustle, Brian Johnson, I'm gonna live forever thing, Jeff Bezos as well, like all these like fucking roided out billionaire types. Like
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
it's that I think is the embedded thing as well, is that it's like, you know, we got to the point where all the billionaires can buy the cool clothes. And by doing that, they made the cool clothes now not cool. So like now them sort of investing in their bodies and like looking good. I would argue, and now politicians are doing it too. I would argue that like that's making the case for people to be like, fuck it, I'm not going on Ozempic. I'm not going to do these things. Like I don't want to look like some forced hot, because they're not really hot, person who is
Hmm.
also like this like bad billionaire conservative type. Like that's sort of like where I can see this going. But either way, like, do you
Oh,
think this sort of like broligarch, I'm an entrepreneur tech guy mode has sort of like really, that I think has tainted the water. I think that has really forced us to become like, you know, I try to resist influence. As I just said, I'm under that influence. I eat my protein. I have my Apple Watch. You have an Aura
totally.
Ring.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, honestly, I try not to even associate with them doing it, but
Absolutely agreed.
but that being said, it's true. If that those are the kinds of people who are like pushing this and using it, there's totally going to be a swing and pushback of like, no,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be like these people. I'm not going to do that. But I do love the, like, it's funny you have your like goal and I have my like everyday like my goal to hit for my activity, but truly I'm by a computer all day. So for me to
Right.
have these goals, I am way healthier, and even just in simple ways. Like I don't force myself to go for a walk when I normally would just like stay at home and not. So
Right.
I don't know. There's like, yeah, I enjoy it for that reason specifically.
I
But
think it. No, go ahead.
no,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. Well, I
I
was
was
just
going to
gonna
say,
say
like, you go. You go.
I was just gonna say that I also think behind the health obsession is still that obsession now that I'm like talking about this for beauty, and like
Yeah.
the way to like look better and younger is to have that, like, yeah, if you have like your cellular age is younger, then like hopefully that'll mean you'll age less because we're like such a culture afraid of aging. So speaking of like cougar puberty, tie back. But
Right.
yeah, I think it also has a little some undertones of just like wanting to look your best.
Yeah. But it's again, it's so funny. There's a such an obsession with looking younger, even for young people, which it's at the expense of doing things that are quote unquote younger behavior, a la partying and having fun. So it's like there's an iconic article about like everybody's hot, but like nobody's having sex, and it's like it's
Yeah.
exactly that. It's like, what is the point of all this if you're not enjoying it? Like, eat the fried thing every so often, like have wild sex, like have drinks sometimes, like don't be completely chaste of everything. that's
I
that's a me
couldn't.
thing that drives me
No, I
crazy.
couldn't
Yeah,
agree
I
more.
agree.
Truly, you need to bring some joy into your life. I've spent
Yeah.
enough time obsessed with health stuff to the point where I'm like, okay, but am I
Yeah.
really happy? And like, are they really
Yeah.
happy?
Yeah.
Probably not.
It's hard to
Like we
escape
know
that
they're not.
influence, but yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly.
Mhm.
Okay, well, this brings us to another health item. We're now like potentially 3 for 3 of health items, as far as subjects. Is there was a big story. I don't remember if it was the CDC or the health department. I don't remember. Maybe they're actually the same thing. I don't think they are. Came out with a stat last week, or I believe it was a stat about how birth rates have sort of hit the lowest ever. There's big worries about that, and this has been a sort of conversation now for a lot of times. And I don't think that story is that unique. I think that's sort of been in the water for some time. What this gets at, I think, is something that you sent over, or this sort of concept that's sort of been going around, is this idea of sort of micro trends, and about how this sort of maybe the birth rate falling thing is a macro trend, but I do think it dovetails into a lot of micro trends related to, perhaps Gen Z, but also millennial, like relationships between men and women, male loneliness epidemic. This, what happened with the T app recently, incel culture, like all these sort of things that all may and may not interact with each other, that I think make this sort of like complete picture of like it's expressing itself. All of these tons of items are expressing themselves as there are less kids. And it's because people aren't, a lot of social contracts, I think, have collapsed to enable exactly what we said about like maybe the people who are worried too much about their health. Like that's probably a component of, again, a micro trend that's preventing people from having sex and having the kid, the kids. I think they all sort of relate. So like to that, what are your thoughts on this phenomena, quote unquote, of falling birth rates? And like, do you think that maybe this is an expression of myriad micro trends in and around the space of, sex and the matters of, say, opposite genders or opposite sexes, excuse me?
Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, I feel like there's so many reasons, but that is definitely I would think a pretty big one. And yeah, I mean, yeah, like you said, everyone's hot, no one's having sex. It's Yeah, it's fascinating to me. Also, Gen Z is also just not even wanting to date. And I mean,
Yeah.
I guess, yeah, yeah, I have so many thoughts on this, but yeah. So no, truly, I like took notes on this subject. I have so many different like thoughts. I'm just gonna back up and say my first thought of why this is happening is the fact that because people who are having babies are generally in their 30s and
Yeah, yeah.
millennial,
Yep.
they just like we don't need husbands, we don't need to have families and children, and I feel like there's a big just shift in culture of we don't need to get married. And I also read the study
Right.
that like single women are happier than single men,
Yeah,
which
absolutely.
which is interesting. So it's like now that women are more educated and have their own jobs, a lot of them are simply choosing not dating and celibacy and not wanting to have kids, or if they are, sometimes even not with a partner. So
Right.
yeah, yeah. So I feel like that's honestly like the number one reason is just culture is shifting to not needing partnerships, not needing families. And then like the fact that you can have children at 30, late 30s, early 40s, like that's even where my head is at as a 35-year-old. I'm like, I'm enjoying my time now, being selfish, young. I'll worry about it in a few more years. But also, life's freaking expensive. So to have a kid,
Yes.
I want to have a ton of money that I can spend towards that. Childcare is wild, healthcare
Yeah.
is wild. All of this stuff is just so expensive that I want to still sustain my lifestyle. Having a kid is not going to make that possible.
Totally.
And like,
Totally.
yeah, I need to go to my job if I want to have that. So you would need childcare, or I'd rather stay home, but then there's only one income or zero income. So I think that that is the number one thing. So sorry to like derail, but I had to get that out because my
No.
brain was all muffled
But
with
that's
ideas.
true. That's like I
Hmm.
think like it's not to get capital P political, but like I think that's the big missing piece in the conversation when it's like fucking JD Vance or whoever who's like, you need to have more sex and have kids. It's like, okay, but like how if I can't afford it and if there are no social systems that help me, like why would I have a kid? Like that's like it's so obvious. Like that
Exactly.
it's a financial thing, which is like duh. But they are not interested in helping people, as we know. They just want to make little soldiers. So that's a whole other thing. But yes, to the
Yeah,
point
no,
of
exactly.
finances, it's true. But I do think the falling birth rate trend, quote unquote, is itself a micro trend. Because like if I had to put money on this, like I would say that like there is going to be a boomerang. I think now is really bad times across the board. And I think like
Hmm.
the biggest sort of like again, as we capital P political, once we're sort of out of the woods of this current political moment where things do sort of right itself, I think there will be more millennials in their 40s, mid or early, mid, late 40s, who will have kids. I think that means they're going to be having kids by their own means. I think that there's a reason why a lot of like, all of my friends who are able to, or who do have eggs, let's say, they have mostly frozen their eggs. And like with the understanding of like, I might use these one day. So I'm like, that could be
Yes.
tomorrow. It could be in 15 years. And like, that doesn't mean that I am birthing them. Like, it means that like, I am holding on to these because like, I might need these one day and I don't want to let that go. I want them to be
Yes.
healthy, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that that's like, that's valid. And I think that will sort of like create a sort of once things settle down and get a bit more stable. And like, again, to your point of like, I don't have money now. Maybe in my late 30s, whatever, like I will. And I think that's valid. And like, I don't think it's lost on me that like most people I know who now have kids, whether they are young kids or older kids, the people who have younger kids are in their early 40s, which I think to that point, like they have money or they are in a more comfortable spot, which I think again is a reflection of these times. And the people who have older kids, like they're not my age, they're not our age. They're all people who are in their like mid or they're in their 50s, maybe late 40s, which again
Hmm.
is to say that is the same thing. Instead of like everybody like those people who are now Gen X who have their sort of like adolescent age kids, that is now like they were probably the exception in a lot of ways. They were probably the bi-coastal whatever, but like now that's like all millennials because these like sort of bi-coastal or not bi-coastal, like from coastal cities, Gen X people who are probably creative, probably weren't able to get money, who didn't get money until their 40s, let's say again, to the point of the
Yeah.
age of their kids, is a reflection of like what now is happening across a whole generation of millennials. Like I think Gen Z probably will do the same thing unless they get caught in the net that the trap that JD Vance is setting up, which they could, some of them. But
Hmm.
anyway,
Hmm.
I think that like there will be a boomerang, and I think it's a safety thing more than anything.
Yeah. Yeah. I absolutely agree with all of that. And like one of the micro trends out there is also egg freezing.
Yeah, yeah,
Celebrities, people are talking about that too. And yeah. And it's also interesting to me too, though, and this also might be like a flex of how celebrities are the ones having babies really young. Like they
yeah,
seem to be the
yes. They can
ones.
afford it.
Yeah, exactly. Like Hailey Bieber and the
Right.
Kardashians. Yeah, that's like another thing that it really does go to show a lot of it is about finances and
Yeah.
money and life stages.
And
Yeah.
it's also like even the idea of freezing an egg. It's like by freezing the eggs, you're saying now is not a good time for whatever reason. But like that is what is being said, whether consciously or expressly or not, is like now is not a good time. Whether in the world or in my life or whatever, it's not a good time. I'm pushing pause and I will revisit this in the future. And that says a lot.
Yes. Yep. Exactly.
So anyway, um yeah, that's gonna give me a complex. So maybe I'll write about this week. Who knows? This is gonna give me a complex, but oh well.
Yes. Use it.
So yeah, seriously. Okay, so final item, which is squarely in the Gen Z world and has technically nothing to do with health, but it does have something to do with um, genetics. Let's say, is the Sydney Sweeney American Apparel or not American Apparel? Excuse me, American Eagle. Um,
Yeah.
whoa, Freudian slip. American Eagle campaign, which has been making or getting a lot of attention. If you're not familiar, Sydney Sweeney is quote unquote the new face of American Eagle, which is very interesting because they're making it very cool looking and very euphoria or whatever you want to call it. It's not necessarily
Hmm.
euphoria, but it's definitely trying to be really cool. And American Eagle, to me at least, is not very cool at all. Very mall brand, very suburb, very whatever. So that is one thing. The other thing is it wasn't the first ad, but definitely was the second ad that came out was this ad where Sydney Sweeney is like, jeans come in all different colors, jeans come in whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then it ends with something like, but my jeans are blue. And then like the tagline is like, Sydney Sweeney has really good jeans. And that are great jeans, excuse me. And that has
Yep.
led to a big sort of like, this is the dog whistle about eugenics and about like white power and whatever. And like, I can see that being true. I don't think that was the intention of the ad for sure. They were
Yeah.
not thinking that. They just, there
So,
wasn't enough due diligence on their end,
yeah,
I think. And like,
agreed.
somebody at an agency is probably in a lot of trouble. But like, anyway, it is being received that way. So I'm curious, what are your thoughts on this collaboration in general? Do you think it's going to resonate with Gen Z? Who's this going to resonate with? And do you think this sort of, let's start there and then we'll talk about the
Yeah.
controversy. Do you think this is is this going to resonate with Gen Z? Clearly it's a ploy to like, hey, to be like, Gen Z, come shop with us. Is it going to work?
Yeah, that's my first question is like who is Sydney Sweeney's fan base? It's I feel like it's a mix of Gen Z and millennials. And although I have to say, unpopular opinion, I've never been a huge fan of Sydney Sweeney. She's fine, but I don't quite get the insane mass appeal.
Agreed. Agreed.
So I just wanted to put that out there.
I agree.
But okay, great. So yeah, no, that was like literally my main notes are one, American Eagle was a cool brand, mall brand when I was growing up. So it was in my mind a millennial brand. And
Yeah,
then
agreed.
like, Abercrombie and Fitch, they did a whole 360 with their brand. And I have to say, they have really cute stuff now. They've got
Yeah.
some great like rebranding. Their products are higher end, they're more
Yeah.
expensive. Like they did a great job. They have a clearer vision of like who their audience is.
They've
And I
done a good
think
job.
yeah, they really have. So yeah, to the point where I walk in and I'm like, wait, I want that and that. It's cute. But yeah, I think that's American Eagle's issue is not knowing who their target audience is or like what their main direction is. And this kind of felt like a throwing shit to the wall and seeing what sticks
Yeah.
kind of a
Yeah.
moment of like good for them
Yeah.
getting Sydney Sweeney.
A big
It's
check.
definitely yeah, like that's huge. So I think that this is definitely gonna bring some more Gen Z customers in. But I think they kind of need to stick with that kind of marketing and like because even their clothes, like I actually shopped there recently because there I have a small mall by me and that's one of the only stores. So I was like, I'm gonna check it out. I actually got a really
Yeah.
cute like pajama set and I was
Okay.
shocked by how some of the cute stuff that they had. But it was such a mix of very like young feeling stuff along with a
Yeah.
few like mature, nice, cool things. So yeah, I think their whole line in general needs to be a little bit more focused on who their consumer is and then like have their marketing follow
Hmm.
that. And I feel like they're just a little
Right.
confused right now.
Well, that I think, like, to the point of Sydney Sweeney, like, I think if we think about quote unquote who Sydney Sweeney is for, it's for like young men. Like it's Sydney Sweeney, and I have this conversation with friends. Like Sydney Sweeney, like Dua Lipa, that is like they are products for the male gaze in a lot of ways.
Yes.
Versus say like a Sabrina Carpenter, which is like for
It's just
the
that.
girls and the male gaze. Like that
Yes.
is like what like so that's like a different idea of femininity, a different idea of like
Yes.
humor and presentation and
I
like
love Sabrina. Gotta say
so
that.
I love Sabrina too, but like I don't love
Mhm.
Dua Lipa. I think it's fine, but I Sydney Sweeney, I'm like
Yeah.
this means nothing to me. Like the whole like bathwater thing, it was like this is clearly for like straight guys, and so like follow like this was like the thing she did after that. Like granted, in between she was at Bezos's wedding, which is neither here nor there, but like this being the follow up is like to me like I don't
Mhm.
think the strategy that they were going for is like let's get young men in the store. I think it was thinking we're gonna get young women. However, like the
Mhm.
fact that like the stock went up and like all the bros went for it says who's actually listening. I don't think like the I could be wrong. I probably am wrong, but I think like the women who are talking about this are talking about the sort of like the eugenics issue and like that ad being like this is a little bit weird. I don't know
Yeah.
if I like this versus like
Yeah.
men being like
Love
enjoying
it.
it because she's pretty. Yeah, she's pretty, and like they're
Mm. Has big
who
boobs.
knows? Like, yeah, maybe they're gonna buy the jeans for their whoever, but like clearly, as we talked about earlier, like these people probably don't have girlfriends.
No, that is so
So
true.
who are they buying the jeans for anyway? Um,
No, it's
I
yeah, no, it was such a miss. And like, yeah, that's the other thing too about American Eagle, which they're an Aerie, their whole campaign around
yeah
real women and real women's bodies and showing women of all different shapes and colors and sizes. That was really cool, and I really appreciated that. And now it's like yeah, their inclusivity with this specific marketing is
Right.
just, yeah,
A
not
gap.
there.
Really, someone at an agency is getting yelled at, and I feel bad for them, but like I feel like this probably, I would not be surprised if whoever internally or externally, and if you're listening, please tell me. I feel like they probably did not have a very diverse team, or maybe they did have a diverse team who was like, hey, this ad's a little weird. It feels a little weird. And then maybe the brand was like, no, we love it. But like that, like, Sydney Sweeney has been in a lot of comedies, but she's not a capital C comedian. Where an ad like that can play out and people be like, oh, that's a funny joke. If Sabrina Carpenter did it, I think people would be like, oh, that is funny. And like, you are joking. You are joking, and like, this is a joke. I think they still would be the same conversation, but I think people would have been like, this is satire, clearly. Clearly. Because like, she would have done that. If Sabrina Carpenter did that ad, she would have like, it probably would have been in a more, say, intersectional room. She wouldn't have done it by herself, number one. That's not her brand.
Hmm.
And it would have been like a joke or something. And I think people would have gotten that. Sydney Sweeney by herself looking sexy saying that reads weird vibes. It seems, yeah, it
Yeah.
just seems very old times, like 70s, very, I don't like it.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I feel you. Yeah. Yeah. Something about it just feels.
Yeah. Well, hey, maybe we'll revisit it if sales go up. I'm not holding my breath, but maybe their sales
Hmm.
will go up. Who knows? This is a sort of last ditch. I don't know football, but maybe there is a football reference to be made about something hitting the end zone in the final quarter, something. I don't.
Oh, I don't know. A basket in
Sure.
the last 2 seconds. Yeah. I don't
Basket. That
know.
sounds great to me. That's like that. Yeah, that's it.
Also
That's it.
breakfast.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. Well, good luck to
Um,
them. I hope they figure it out.
yeah, good luck. Good luck. Um, yeah. Well, okay, well that is all the time we have today. And like I think also like maybe we will be back in a month, Kristen and I, with our not our better halves,
Our
Sarah and
partners.
Ben. So we will be
Yeah.
having a sort of like sequel episode in September, barring any Mercury retrograde shenanigans, which is entirely possible. Who knows? Yeah. Hope. Oh, thank God. Thank God. But maybe we will have some results about Sydney Sweeney and American Eagle that we can talk about. Either way, I will see you then. I will see you online. Is there anything, uh, where can people find you? Anything else to add?
Thank
Plug
you.
before we go.
Yeah. So our Substack, we also have an Instagram, but Substack is Best Trends Forever. So go subscribe.
Cute.
And we do weekly, sometimes bi-weekly trend reports, recaps of what trends we think are fun to hear about for the week. So it's kind of like our curated list of what's cool in culture and fashion and beauty and health and wellness and all things. So yeah.
Good stuff. Cute. Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you,
Can't wait to talk
Kyle.
again in a month. This is a lot of fun. A lot of good episode. Thank you all for listening. We will catch you next week. Hopefully Ben will be back. Hopefully we will all be here. Yeah, thanks for listening, and we'll see you later. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.